A few minutes from now, you may begin to understand why this message crossed your path today. There is a reason most people will never hear what you are about to hear. Not because it is secret, not because it is hidden, but because most people stop searching before they find it. They get distracted, they settle into routines, they accept explanations that feel comfortable, and slowly, without even noticing, they stop asking the deeper questions that could completely change the direction of their lives. Yet somehow, out of billions of videos, millions of messages, endless opinions, and constant noise competing for attention every single day, you found this one. That alone is worth thinking about, because sometimes the most important discoveries are not the ones people actively look for. Sometimes they appear at exactly the moment they are needed. Today we are going to explore a powerful idea that most people overlook for years, and in some cases for their entire lives. We will uncover the invisible patterns that quietly shape decisions, beliefs, habits, and outcomes. We will look at why so many people remain stuck in the same cycle despite wanting change, and why the answer is often hiding in plain sight. You will learn how your attention influences the way you experience reality, why certain opportunities seem to appear for some people but not others, and how deeply held beliefs can silently determine the direction of your future. We will also uncover lesser-known truths about the mind, awareness, and personal transformation that are rarely discussed in everyday conversations. These are not complicated secrets reserved for a select few. They are simple principles that become powerful once they are understood. As this video unfolds, each piece will connect to the next. What seems like a small observation at the beginning may reveal a much bigger truth by the end. Some of the ideas we discuss may challenge assumptions you have carried for years. Others may explain experiences that never fully made sense before. That is why watching until the end matters. The final lesson brings everything together and reveals the deeper reason this message may feel different from the countless others you have encountered before. Missing even a small part could mean missing the connection that makes the entire picture clear. There are moments in life when a single idea changes the way a person sees everything. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because their understanding changes. And once that happens, it becomes impossible to return to the old way of thinking. This could be one of those moments. So stay with me, keep an open mind, and pay close attention to what comes next. Because after today, you may never look at your life the same way again. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy thought-provoking videos that challenge ordinary thinking and help you discover new ways of understanding yourself and the world around you, make sure to subscribe and join our growing community. Now, let's begin. Many people believe life happens randomly. They believe success is random, failure is random, happiness is random, confidence is random. They look at others and assume some people were simply lucky enough to receive better circumstances. But if you look closely, a different truth begins to emerge. Behind almost every result is a pattern. Behind every pattern is a repeated behavior. Behind every repeated behavior is a thought that has been accepted as true. What appears random from a distance often becomes predictable when examined closely. The person who constantly expects rejection often notices signs of rejection everywhere. The person who believes opportunities are rare often finds reasons not to take action. The person who expects failure becomes highly skilled at spotting evidence that supports that expectation. It happens so quietly that they rarely realize it is happening at all. Think about how many decisions are made automatically every day. The average person does not stop and carefully examine every belief they carry. They do not question every assumption. They do not investigate every fear. Instead, they operate from mental programs that have been running for years. Some of those programs were learned during childhood. Some came from family. Some came from friends. Some came from painful experiences. Some came from moments that seemed small at the time but left a lasting mark. Eventually, these programs become so familiar that they start feeling like reality itself. People stop seeing them as beliefs. They start seeing them as facts. A person may believe they are not confident enough. They may believe they are not talented enough. They may believe success belongs to other people. They may believe their past determines their future. After repeating these ideas for years, those beliefs stop feeling like opinions. They begin feeling like permanent truths. Once that happens, the pattern becomes stronger. The mind starts organizing experiences around those beliefs. Actions begin matching those beliefs. Decisions begin reflecting those beliefs. Over time, an entire life can be shaped by ideas that were never carefully examined. This is why patterns are so powerful. They are invisible when you are inside them. A fish does not notice the water it swims in. A person rarely notices the beliefs they repeat every day. They simply experience the results those beliefs create. Then they assume the results are proof that the beliefs were correct all along. This creates a cycle that can continue for decades. Fear creates hesitation. Hesitation creates missed opportunities. Missed opportunities create disappointment. Disappointment strengthens fear. The pattern repeats again and again, not because the person lacks ability, not because the world is against them, but because the pattern has become stronger than their awareness of it. Patterns eventually become habits. A habit is simply a repeated action that no longer requires much thought. Most people think of habits as physical actions, going to the gym, drinking coffee, checking a phone. But mental habits are often far more powerful. Worry can become a habit. Self-doubt can become a habit. Complaining can become a habit. Overthinking can become a habit. Expecting the worst can become a habit. These patterns become automatic responses to life. A challenge appears and the mind immediately reacts in the same familiar way. The reaction feels natural because it has been repeated so many times. Over the years, habits begin shaping identity. This is where the pattern becomes even more powerful. At first, a person says, I feel afraid. Later, they say, I am a fearful person. At first, they say, I failed. Later, they say, I am a failure. Notice the difference. One describes an experience, the other describes an identity. Once a belief becomes part of identity, it becomes much harder to question. People defend identities even when those identities are limiting them. They protect them, they carry them, they build entire lives around them. This is why two people can experience similar circumstances and respond in completely different ways. One sees a setback and views it as temporary. The other sees a setback and views it as proof that they should quit. One sees difficulty and sees growth. The other sees difficulty and sees confirmation of their fears. The event may be similar. The identity behind the interpretation is different. Identity influences perception. Perception influences action. Action influences results. Results reinforce identity. The cycle continues. Eventually, identity begins shaping destiny. Not through magic, not through fate, through repeated choices. Every day, people make decisions that align with who they believe they are. Someone who believes they are capable tends to take actions that support that belief. Someone who believes they are powerless often avoids actions that could challenge that belief. Over time, these small choices accumulate. They create different outcomes. They create different futures. What looks like destiny is often the result of countless decisions made over many years. This is the invisible pattern most people never notice. They focus on external circumstances while ignoring the internal patterns guiding their responses. They search for solutions outside themselves while carrying the same mental habits everywhere they go. They change jobs but keep the same fears. They move to a different city but keep the same beliefs. They enter new relationships but repeat the same emotional patterns. The surroundings change, the pattern remains, and because the pattern remains, the results often remain as well. The moment everything starts changing is not usually dramatic. There is no sudden flash of light, no dramatic announcement, no perfect moment when everything becomes clear at once. The biggest change begins when awareness enters the picture. Awareness is powerful because it allows a person to step outside the pattern and observe it. For the first time, they stop being controlled by the program and start seeing the program itself. They begin noticing thoughts instead of automatically believing them. They begin questioning assumptions instead of accepting them. They begin asking where certain fears came from and whether those fears still deserve authority over their lives. Many people spend years waiting for a breakthrough. They believe everything will change when they earn more money, when they find the right opportunity, when someone finally supports them, when circumstances improve, when luck arrives. Yet some of the most successful and fulfilled people in the world discovered that external change often follows internal awareness, not the other way around. Money can help, opportunities can help, encouragement can help, but none of those things automatically transform a person who remains trapped inside the same unconscious patterns. A person can receive an opportunity and still sabotage it. A person can receive support and still doubt themselves. A person can gain resources and still think in ways that keep them stuck. This is why awareness matters so much. Awareness reveals the hidden forces influencing behavior. It shines light on thoughts that were operating in darkness. Once you can see a pattern clearly, you gain the ability to choose whether it continues. The truth is that many people are living on autopilot. They wake up and immediately begin thinking the same thoughts they thought yesterday. They respond to challenges in familiar ways. They carry assumptions they never consciously chose. They react rather than reflect. They follow scripts that were written long ago. The mind becomes efficient at repeating what is familiar. Familiarity feels safe even when it produces frustration. This is why change can feel uncomfortable. Change requires stepping outside the automatic. Many fears are inherited rather than created. People absorb them from the environment around them. They learn what is possible and impossible from watching others. They inherit limitations disguised as wisdom. They inherit beliefs disguised as facts. They inherit stories about success, failure, money, relationships, and self-worth. Then they spend years acting out those stories without realizing they are following a script they never consciously wrote. One person grows up hearing that success is difficult and rare. Another grows up hearing that challenges can be overcome. One learns to expect disappointment. Another learns to expect growth. These early messages often settle deep within the mind. Later in life, they influence decisions in ways that seem invisible. People think they are freely choosing, but many choices are heavily influenced by beliefs they have never examined. This leads to a powerful realization. Much of what controls people remains hidden because it feels normal. They do not notice it because it has always been there. Yet the moment awareness arrives, the illusion begins to weaken. The person starts recognizing patterns. They begin seeing how certain thoughts lead to certain emotions, how certain emotions lead to certain actions, how certain actions lead to familiar outcomes. Then another discovery begins to emerge. Your attention is constantly shaping your experience of reality. Every day, the mind scans the world, looking for evidence. It searches through conversations, events, memories, and experiences. But it does not search randomly. It searches according to what it already believes. If someone believes the world is full of problems, the mind becomes highly skilled at finding problems. If someone believes people cannot be trusted, the mind notices every example that supports that belief. If someone believes opportunities are everywhere, the mind starts noticing possibilities that others overlook. Whatever receives attention becomes stronger. Attention acts like fuel. Feed fear, and fear grows. Feed doubt, and doubt grows. Feed anxiety, and anxiety grows. Feed negativity, and negativity grows. The mind becomes increasingly efficient at producing more of the same. It develops pathways that make those thoughts easier to access. Eventually, those thoughts begin feeling automatic. The opposite is also true. Feed courage, and courage grows. Feed growth, and growth grows. Feed possibility, and possibility grows. Feed purpose, and purpose grows. The mind starts searching for evidence that supports those beliefs as well. It notices different opportunities. It interprets challenges differently. It becomes more resilient. The world may not have changed overnight, but perception begins changing, and perception influences behavior in powerful ways. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means understanding that attention determines which parts of reality become dominant in your experience. Two people can stand in the same place and see entirely different worlds because they are focusing on different things. One notices limitations. The other notices possibilities. One notices reasons to quit. The other notices reasons to continue. The facts may be similar. The focus is different. And that difference quietly shapes the direction of a life. Why now? Out of all the days that have come and gone, why did this message reach you today? Why this video? Why this moment? Why not last week? Why not next month? Why did you decide to stay and listen when there are thousands of other things competing for your attention right now? Most people would call it coincidence. They would say it means nothing. Just another video. Just another message passing through an endless stream of content. But sometimes the questions that stay in our minds the longest are not the ones that have obvious answers. Sometimes a message arrives when a person is finally ready to hear it, not because the message changed, not because the world changed, but because something inside that person changed. Maybe part of you has been carrying a feeling that is difficult to explain, a feeling that appears during quiet moments, a feeling that shows up late at night when everything becomes still, a feeling that follows you even during successful days. Not sadness, not anger, not even disappointment, just a sense that there must be more than repeating the same routines, more than moving from one week to the next without understanding where your life is going, more than constantly waiting for some future moment that promises to finally make everything feel different. Maybe you are tired, not physically tired, a deeper kind of tired. Tired of waiting for the perfect time, tired of waiting for confidence, tired of waiting for certainty, tired of feeling as though life is happening somewhere ahead of you while you remain stuck in the same place, tired of watching opportunities pass by because fear spoke louder than possibility, tired of telling yourself that one day things will change while secretly wondering why that day never seems to arrive. Many people carry this feeling for years. They learn how to hide it. They smile when they need to smile. They continue moving forward. They continue meeting expectations. They continue doing what everyone expects them to do. But beneath the surface, there is a question that never completely disappears. It waits quietly in the background. It appears during moments of reflection. It appears after disappointments. It appears after achievements that somehow fail to create the fulfillment they expected. It whispers the same question again and again. Is this really all there is? That question has changed countless lives throughout history. Because the moment someone becomes brave enough to ask it honestly, they begin looking beyond the limits they once accepted. They begin realizing that many of the rules guiding their lives were never truly their own. Many of the fears were inherited. Many of the doubts were learned. Many of the limitations were accepted without question. The question becomes a doorway, not because it immediately provides answers, but because it creates awareness. Perhaps that quiet voice inside you has already been speaking for a long time. Perhaps it has been trying to get your attention for years, not with loud demands, not with dramatic signs, just small moments, a feeling during an ordinary day, a thought that appears unexpectedly, a realization that refuses to disappear. The voice keeps returning because it recognizes something that your conscious mind may have forgotten. It recognizes potential. It recognizes possibility. It recognizes a version of you that has not fully emerged yet. Most people spend their lives trying to silence that voice. They stay busy, they distract themselves, they fill every quiet moment with noise. They convince themselves that the feeling will disappear if they ignore it long enough. Yet it never truly leaves. Because deep down they know they were meant for more than simply existing. They were meant to grow. They were meant to evolve. They were meant to discover what becomes possible when they stop living according to old limitations. The strange thing about potential is that it often feels uncomfortable. It creates restlessness. It creates dissatisfaction with situations that once seemed acceptable. It creates a desire for something better, even when you cannot clearly describe what that better future looks like. Many people mistake this feeling for unhappiness. In reality, it may be growth trying to happen. It may be a deeper part of you refusing to settle for less than what you are capable of becoming. This is why some messages arrive at exactly the right time. Not because they contain magical answers, not because they instantly solve every problem, but because they remind people of truths they already sensed somewhere deep inside. Truths that became buried beneath years of routine, doubt, fear, and distraction. Sometimes all a person needs is a reminder that they are not powerless, a reminder that change remains possible, a reminder that the future does not have to look exactly like the past. There comes a point when waiting becomes more painful than changing, a point when staying the same begins costing more than taking a risk, a point when excuses no longer provide comfort because a person can clearly see what those excuses have been stealing from them. That point is different for everyone. For some people, it arrives after failure. For others, it arrives after success that feels empty. For others, it arrives during ordinary moments when they suddenly realize years have passed without becoming the person they hoped to be. That realization can be uncomfortable, yet it can also be powerful, because awareness changes everything. Once you see a pattern clearly, it becomes difficult to pretend it does not exist. Once you recognize the beliefs controlling your decisions, you begin noticing them everywhere. Once you understand how much influence your identity has over your life, You start questioning whether that identity still deserves to remain in charge. Life rarely changes overnight. Movies often show transformation as a dramatic event, a single moment, a sudden breakthrough, a complete reinvention. Real life is usually different. Most meaningful changes begin quietly. They begin with a decision that nobody else may even notice at first, a decision that happens entirely within the mind. Yet that decision changes everything that follows. Identity can change in a single moment. Circumstances may take time to catch up. Results may take time to appear. Progress may take time to become visible, but identity can shift immediately. The moment a person decides they are no longer who they used to be, a new direction begins forming. The external world may still look the same. The internal world becomes different. The person who once believed they always quit can make a new decision. They can decide that quitting is no longer part of their identity. The person who spent years controlled by fear can decide that fear no longer gets the final vote. The person who waited endlessly for approval can decide that permission is no longer required. These decisions may sound simple, yet they hold extraordinary power because identity influences behavior, and behavior shapes reality. Think about how many actions are guided by identity every day. People act according to who they believe they are. Someone who believes they are disciplined behaves differently from someone who believes they lack discipline. Someone who believes they are capable approaches challenges differently from someone who believes they are destined to fail. Identity quietly influences choices, reactions, effort, persistence, and confidence. The moment identity changes, new actions become possible. Not because circumstances magically improve, but because the person begins responding differently. They stop asking whether they are capable and start asking how they can improve. They stop looking for reasons to quit and start looking for ways to continue. They stop defining themselves by past mistakes and begin defining themselves by future possibilities. At first, the changes may seem small. A different thought, a different response, a different decision. Yet small shifts repeated consistently become powerful. Every great transformation begins as a small change in direction. A ship crossing an ocean changes its destination entirely through a slight adjustment of course. Human lives work the same way. Tiny decisions repeated over time create outcomes that once seemed impossible. There is a moment when a person stops identifying with the story that has limited them for years. The story may have sounded convincing, it may have felt true, it may have been repeated thousands of times, but eventually they realize it is still a story, and stories can be rewritten. The past may explain where someone has been. It does not have to determine where they are going. Perhaps this video was never about discovering something new. Perhaps it was about remembering something old. Something that has always been there beneath the doubts and fears. Something that existed before the setbacks, before the disappointments, before the limiting beliefs. A deeper truth about who you are and what you are capable of becoming. Maybe this message was not an accident. Maybe finding these words at this particular moment was not random. Maybe it arrived exactly when it needed to. Not because it contains secret knowledge, not because it has the power to save anyone. Real change has never come from a video, a book, a speech, or a message alone. Real change comes from a decision made within a person, a decision that says enough is enough, a decision that says the old story no longer controls the future. This message cannot change your life, but it can remind you that the ability to change your life has been with you all along. It can remind you that the fears you carry are not necessarily facts. It can remind you that your current circumstances are not your final destination. It can remind you that growth remains possible, no matter how long you have felt stuck. It can remind you that there is more strength inside you than you have allowed yourself to believe. For years, you may have been measuring yourself by old standards, old failures, old mistakes, old labels, old expectations. Yet none of those things fully define who you are. They are chapters, they are experiences, they are moments in a larger story. They are not the entire story. And from this moment forward, whether you realize it or not, a choice stands before you. Not a dramatic choice that changes everything instantly. A quieter choice, a deeper choice. The choice between continuing to live according to an identity that no longer serves you or beginning to create a new one. The choice between remaining loyal to old limitations or becoming loyal to future possibilities. The choice between repeating a familiar story or starting to write a different one with every decision you make from this day on. Before you leave, take one last moment to think about everything we talked about today. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Because awareness begins with a single moment of honesty, a single moment where you stop running on autopilot and start paying attention to the story you are living. If this message connected with you, if even one part of it made you stop and think, leave a comment with one word, awake, just one word. Because that single word means you are paying attention. It means you are questioning old patterns. It means you are willing to see what many people spend their entire lives ignoring. And if you know someone who feels stuck, someone who keeps waiting for life to change, someone who needs this reminder right now, share this video with them. Sometimes one message can arrive at exactly the right moment and create a completely different direction. If you enjoyed this video, take a second to like it. It helps this message reach more people who may need to hear it. And if you want more videos that challenge ordinary thinking, reveal hidden truths about the mind, and help you see what most people never notice, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next video. Remember, the biggest changes rarely begin with a huge event. They begin with a new awareness, a new decision, a new way of seeing yourself and the world around you. The story you have been living until now does not have to be the story you live tomorrow. The next chapter has not been written yet, and the pen is still in your hands. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay aware, stay curious, and keep moving toward the person you were always capable of becoming.